Picture this. It's 5 a.m. The air is absolutely freezing. There's that sharp smell of salt and diesel in the harbor, and the whole coast is just waking up. Welcome to This Explainer. I'm your host, and today we're diving into the incredible story of the colors of the tide. We're going to be looking at the life of an 86-year-old man named Harold Collins. Everyone calls him Harry. He is literally one of the absolute last craftsmen in America still hand-painting traditional wooden lobster buoys. And you know, what seems like a simple story about painting wood actually holds this massive, unforgettable lesson about legacy, purpose, and the things we choose to leave behind.
Now, the quote we're looking at here really captures it. Every color belongs to someone's life on the water. This is Harry's whole philosophy. When he walks into his weathered old shop and pries open those battered paint cans, the deep reds, the bright yellows, the navy blues, it's honestly like magic. The second he lays that first brushstroke onto a plain block of cedar, it stops being just a piece of lumber. It gets an identity. He isn't just slapping pigment on wood, he's literally weaving a family's entire lifeline right into the grain.
Okay, let's dive into this process, because the sheer dedication here is just staggering. For 68 years, Harry has done the exact same meticulous routine. First, he carves the raw cedar block entirely by hand so it'll ride the ocean's swells just right. Then, he sands it down until it's perfectly smooth, basically prepping his canvas. And finally, he paints these incredibly unique family patterns. And we're not talking about a couple dozen buoys here. Over his lifetime, Harry has handcrafted thousands of these markers. It's just this beautiful, rhythmic devotion to a craft that relies completely on the human touch.
But of course, the world around his little workshop is changing, and changing fast. The coast is being taken over by modern industry, right? We're talking mass-produced plastic buoys, factory paint that dries in seconds, and this relentless obsession with speed and efficiency. Contrast that with Harry's steadfast tradition, hand-carved cedar, hand-mixed colors, and real family storytelling. And we kind of have to stop and ask ourselves, what exactly are we losing here? Because when we swap out the handcrafted for the mass-produced, we aren't just speeding up the assembly line. We're actually erasing the individual human stories those buoys carry out to sea.
To really grasp what Harry's doing, we kind of need to redefine our terms. A lobster buoy is way more than just a simple fishing tool bobbing out in the water. It's essentially a visual family crest. Every single family fishing the Maine coast has their own totally distinct, recognizable pattern. And get this, there are literally thousands of registered color combinations out there, fiercely defended by the fishermen who own them. Some of these designs haven't changed in over a century. So when a lobsterman looks out at the vast, turbulent ocean, they aren't just looking for a marker, they're looking for their crest. It's a functional, vital piece of family history, tied right to their everyday survival.
So the crucial point is, this art form carries severe real-world consequences. It's a massive domino effect. Think about it. If Harry mismeasures just one stripe or gets a shade of blue slightly wrong, it totally confuses fishermen who are miles offshore in dangerous waters. That confusion, it leads to lost traps, and lost traps lead to ruined family livelihoods. Harry himself says, "I'm not painting decorations, I'm protecting livelihoods." Measuring every single stripe with total precision isn't just some artistic choice for him, it's serious, high-stakes business.
And this heavy sense of responsibility didn't just appear out of nowhere. When Harry was a young boy, he used to follow his grandfather down the harbor docks. His grandfather was this old-school lobsterman who had this crazy ability to recognize every single buoy from hundreds of yards away, just by the arrangement of the colors. One morning, his grandfather turned to him and dropped this piece of wisdom that defined the rest of Harry's life. Out there, colors speak louder than words. That one sentence taught Harry the essential language of the sea, a language he's been speaking fluently for the last 6 decades.
Just to show you how deep this generational language goes, consider one local fishing family. 4 generations ago, their great-grandfather's original buoy was out there on the water. Well, decades later, they actually found it. The wood was deeply cracked, the paint was practically gone, just beaten away by salt and time, but today they bring it to Harry, and he painstakingly restores it, matching every single original stripe entirely from memory and old harbor records. And now that restored buoy hangs quietly in their boat shed. You literally have 4 generations of a family looking at a piece of wood that doesn't mark traps anymore. It forever marks their history.
68. I really want that number to sink in for a second. 68 years. That is how long Harry Collins has been mastering this incredible craft. For almost 7 decades, he has shown up at 5 a.m., day in and day out, mixing paint, sanding cedar, and serving the Maine coastal community. He's been the silent guardian of their family crests through massive storms, changing seasons, and the relentless march of modernization.
It is an absolutely breathtaking level of dedication.
But as Harry enters the twilight phase of his career, a new chapter begins, and it brings us to a really fascinating question. Where does art truly belong? This question arrives right at Harry's weathered door in the form of a young, recent art school graduate. She travels to his workshop hoping to learn the secrets of traditional coastal painting from the master himself. And this dynamic, the seasoned old craftsman and the eager young student, it really slows our story down and takes us into this beautiful phase of mentorship.
When the young student arrives, she brings a very specific set of academic expectations. She's expecting to learn what we might call museum art, right? Technical color mixing, composition, and the pursuit of being noticed as an artist. But instead, Harry teaches her the principles of ocean art. He teaches her patience, he teaches her consistency, and most importantly, absolute respect for the people whose lives depend on the work. It's such a stark, stunning contrast between the ego of the gallery and the quiet, functional humility of the docks.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how Harry completely shatters her academic definition of a masterpiece. He tells the young graduate, art doesn't always belong in museums. Sometimes it floats on the ocean. Just think about the profound wisdom in that reframing. A true masterpiece doesn't necessarily have to be framed on a white gallery wall. Sometimes it's out there riding the freezing Atlantic swells, doing the really hard work of guiding someone home.
Knowing that his retirement is finally imminent, Harry decides to paint one last buoy. It's his own family pattern. It's simple, elegant, and completely definitive, solid white, wrapped in two deep blue bands, intersected by one narrow red stripe. And he signs his name to it. But he only signs it on the very bottom of the cedar block. And this brilliantly illustrates Harry's deep, unwavering humility. Because the bottom of a buoy is the part that sits entirely submerged underwater. While it floats, no one will ever see his name. And that is exactly the way he wants it.
Let's move to and see how this builds into an incredibly moving transfer of power. On his very final afternoon in the shop, Harry takes his oldest paintbrush. We're talking about a brush where the wooden handle has been stained by countless colors over nearly 70 years of daily use. He washes it one last time. Then he turns to the young art student and he physically places the brush right into her hands, formally passing on the legacy of the Maine coast.
As he places that historic brush into her hands, he delivers his climactic piece of advice. He looks at her and he says, "Never paint to be noticed, paint so someone else can find their way home." She quietly nods. It is the ultimate distillation of ocean art. It strips away all the ego, all the desire for fame, and it leaves only the absolute purest purpose of creation, to be of service, to provide a beacon, to guide another human being safely back to shore. The day comes to a close. It's golden hour on the coast, the sun is starting to sink beyond the Atlantic horizon, and Harry walks slowly out to the very end of the harbor pier. Lobster boats are returning one by one, their diesel engines rumbling through the evening mist. Out in the water, hundreds of brightly painted buoys, literally his life's work, rise and fall with the gentle, rhythmic waves. He watches them drifting in that glowing light, and he softly shares this realization. People think I painted lobster buoys, but all my life I painted the colors that helped families find their way back to each other.
As we wrap up, imagine rising high above the Maine coastline. The harbor is glowing beneath the evening sky, and you can see these tiny splashes of red, blue, yellow, and white just dancing across the vast dark water. The old weathered workshop grows smaller in the distance, but those colors, they keep floating with every shifting tide. It leaves us with such a powerful, lingering question. What happens when an artist's canvas is the Atlantic Ocean? Well, it turns out you don't just create art. You create a compass for the human heart. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to keep looking for the incredible stories hiding in plain sight all around us. Catch you next time.